Welcome to Beyond the Valley, a CNBC Tech podcast with Arjun Kharpal and Tom Chitty.
Beyond the Valley.
There were a few years where car companies were scared tech companies were coming to eat their lunch. My, how things have changed. Now auto giants and tech firms are teaming up as the future car is reimagined.
Beyond the Valley.
One of those partnerships is between Volvo Cars and semiconductor giant Qualcomm. And I have the CEOs of both companies here, Cristiano Amon from Qualcomm and Jim Rowan from Volvo Cars. Thank you both for joining me for this special edition of Beyond the Valley from the World Economic Forum's meeting in Davos.
Thanks for having us.
Very happy to be here.
Yeah.
So let's kick off the conversation with both of you. Car companies v tech companies, that was the narrative a few years ago. Now it's collaboration. So just give us a little rundown and history of the nature of your relationship and what's changed.
Very good. Do you want me to start? Or want to start? All right. So maybe I'll start by saying a lot changed. And, I'll dare to say that car companies, especially Volvo, it's a tech company today. I think the car became a new computing surface. You know, you drive the car, you work from the car, you get entertained from the car. The car becomes really a lot of computational. It changes the service, it changes the driving experience, it changes the navigation. So if we look at a company like Qualcomm, which if you look at our assets as being high performance connectivity for the cloud, especially wireless connectivity, cellular, Wi-Fi, everything, high performance, low power computing, and artificial intelligence processing at the edge. We look at a car is mobile, needs to be connected. You needed to have efficient computing, high performance computing for this transformation. So it's like a natural partnership. And especially with Volvo, like Jim and I, we had worked together in the past, in his prior life, and it's been a great partner. And it's an opportunity that both companies can actually on this space evolve together. And I think we're showing that.
And Jim, from your perspective, when you think about as a car company and the partnership with tech company, what are you thinking and how has that relationship changed?
Yeah, well, we had to make some really quick decisions as we could see the transformation. And everybody talks about the transformation in the auto industry as being a transformation from petrol to electrical propulsion. That's the easy part, quite frankly. We know that. We understand how to harness electricity from batteries and inverter modules and the BMS system that sits on top of that. It will get progressively better, of course, but really the profound change in the auto industry, which happened 2 or 3 years ago and is now accelerating, has been in 4 areas: software, silicon, connectivity, and data. And if you don't understand those as an auto company right now, you're already in trouble. You might not realize it, but trust me, you're in trouble. And so when I say software, that's got to be the full software stack. You've got to understand from the safety level all the way to the application layer. That was a new thing the auto industry really had to learn, is deeply embedded software. Silicon, high computational silicon that's robust, that can be made at mass, that can be effective in what our customers need. And then we look at low latency connectivity. And of course then data. And how you take that data, how you analyze that data, how you interrogate that data and push this back into the business so that you get meaningful, decisions from that. And the big decisions that we had to make as a company is, what do we build versus where do we partner? And we look for the best partners in the world that could bring that high computational silicon, such as Qualcomm, so that we could get that into our product really quickly. We could work with like-minded people, and our customers get the benefits of that. So what this is positioned us to do as Volvo Cars is a reasonably small player. Let's remember, there's only 3 car companies in the world that have harnessed core compute technology at the very core, the software-defined vehicle: Rivian, Tesla, and Volvo. And we've done that because we could act quickly, because we understand how to partner.
Yeah, Cristiano, Jim's alluded to the importance of silicon. Many will probably know Qualcomm historically as a very smartphone-centered company with your Snapdragon line of chips in the smartphones. So what are you bringing to the table in autos?
Look, we saw early on a combination of 2 things. One is we saw that exactly as Jim outlined, the computation is going to be very important in cars, and in car is by definition unplugged, right? And you have to have high performance computing, low power, and on top of that, you have to have the ability to connect to the cloud for many different things. So what we did, we said, how can we enable a platform that enable car companies that understand this transition to basically have what they need to build the car of the future? And what we said, instead of thinking about this as components, we said, why don't we build a platform? And that's how we got the idea to build a Snapdragon digital chassis, which we said, let's think about what is the future of what we call the digital cockpit, all the computational power that goes inside the car. Let's think about the software-defined vehicle, the central safety-grade central processing unit that take all the functions of the car. Let's connect the car to the cloud, and let's create a processor that actually can drive assistant driving autonomy. And with that approach, we said, let's move away from components to a platform. And it was interesting because everybody said, oh, you can't do this, you're not an automotive company, you guys are a mobile company, but I think we prove otherwise, and it's been a great business for us.
We're going to dig into this tech stack a little bit more for sure, but Jim, can I just come back to you first on electrification, right? This is on top of everyone's mind. You said, working out that is in the easy bit, but really getting there at scale is a bumpy road, right? It's not a straightforward line. We've seen a lot of car companies potentially change their pledges on electric, full electric, etc. So just lay us out, as you see it, some of the challenges to wide-scale adoption of EVs, but the opportunities as you see it as well.
Yeah, great question. So basically, as I see it, so I'm an engineer, so I look at it from the base science and the physics. If you look at an electrical propulsion system versus an internal combustion engine, a really good internal combustion engine, brand new, well-tuned, 35% efficient. You lose the rest to heat, to vibration, and to noise. You take our latest electrical propulsion systems, 90 to 93% efficient. Now, you don't need to be a data scientist to figure out and where energy is so scarce, and you want to harness the most of the energy for forward propulsion of the vehicle, that becomes a big point. But the friction factors that lie between full EV adoption is really 5. The first 3 are on the industry. We need to solve those. So the first one is cost. We need to get cost of the batteries down and comparable with ICE. We're working on that, and we're making super headway. The cost per kilowatt hour is coming down. Technologies like LFP technology is helping us in that quest. Second one is range, which is basically energy density. How do you get more energy density into the batteries at the same cost? Again, we're making massive headway on that. The third one is speed. How can we speed up the charge structure? With 800-volt systems, which most companies are moving to now, we can put in 200 kilometers of range in 5 minutes. And that will only get better. So those 3 are on the industry. We're working hard. Fourth one is definitely infrastructure. We need more fast charge infrastructure. And the fifth one is simply change. We've been driving internal combustion for a long time. Some people love the vibration and all that stuff. And it's just going to take time for people to get to trust the technology. And maybe it's just as importantly, what is the residual value of an EV car versus an ICE car? They know what it is for ICE. That's still got to play out. So those are the 5 friction factors. But listen, technology wins the day, and it's a better technology. So I'm confident we'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit longer than we first thought.
Maybe that partly answers my next question, but I'll ask it anyway. You've come from a background also in consumer electronics, which of course is extremely competitive. Now the auto industry is incredibly competitive given the sort of jump up of some of the Chinese players. You've got Tesla in the mix as well. How are you thinking about staying ahead of the competition?
Well, it gets back to some of the partnership that we have with Qualcomm. It's speed. In the auto industry, it has been a slower pace of product development, needlessly in a lot of times. And now you see the competition that you see specifically from China. And it's not that they're cutting corners, they're just faster. So you can bring that into play, but you can't bring that into play if you try and do everything yourself. You've got to partner up and trust people. You guys are really good at this, we're really good at that. Let's get together, drive the synergies, drive the time, drive the time out of the equation and get products to the market quicker than anybody. And consumer electronics do that. I come from the smartphone industry, and that's where Cristiano and I got to know each other. Is a new phone every single 12 months. You know the cadence. And so that was a big part of the engagement that we first had.
Maybe if I can just add one thing real quick, because Jim mentioned a very important point. If you look what happened in the tech sector, if you're successful this year, there's no guarantee you're going to be successful next year. So you have to keep moving. And it's interesting is some of the elements that used to be present in the smartphone industry and consumer electronic, now we see in the auto industry. Car companies are now measured, not necessarily by how complicated their supply chain is, but they're measured by the speed of capabilities. And I think for that requires a different mindset. And that's why we like so much to partner with Jim and Volvo, because the mindset is there. How can we get faster with technology in a way that consumers will be able to use it, and what we're going to do right after that? So that's the change.
Cristiano, you said a phrase a couple minutes ago, software-defined vehicles. It's a phrase we hear sort of a lot in the tech industry and the auto industry. Can you just unpack what that exactly means as it pertains to your vision of the car now?
Yes. So the vehicle is becoming more, I know I'm just going to repeat the name, but it's becoming more software-defined versus hardware-defined.
Yeah. Your industry used to tell me it's a smartphone on wheels.
Yes.
Is that still true?
I think the car is becoming, maybe that's the most simplistic way to define SDV. The car is now a computer on wheels, and that changes many things. The architecture of the car is designed to basically be based on the ability to have software functionality. You can add capabilities, especially one of the things that we have done on our platform. If you have a processor that is meet all the safety standards, all the redundancy safe, you can start having software application instead of dedicated hardware for certain functions of the car, and the whole architecture change. And the most important is an architecture that evolves over time. I think the concept that you buy a car, and then all of a sudden, as years go by, if you own a car for 7 years, for example, as the years go by, you started to be left behind. Now you get constant over-the-air upgrades, and you have new capabilities on the car all the time. Maybe Jim's perspective.
So just as I download an update on my smartphone to update the operating system, similar kind of thing with the car.
And you get surprised with new functionalities.
Yeah. Jim, with the software side of the equation, because you mentioned that as one of the key points, how are you approaching tech at Volvo Cars? Are you hiring a bunch of software developers? Is a lot of this in-house? Is it via partnerships with tech companies? How do you see kind of the software side of the equation?
And it's mixed. So the software that we feel we need to own, it goes back to that conversation. What do we build versus where do we partner? So we've added a tremendous amount of software engineers to the company in the last 2 or 3 years. They need to be able to speak the same language, even if ultimately the product is going to be produced by Qualcomm. They still need to be able to interface. So they need that knowledge base. So, but let's just take Volvo is a safety brand. That's at the very core of our existence for the last 100 years. So we wanted to make sure that we really understood every single line of code between the silicon layer and the application layer. The application layer being cameras, sensors, LiDAR, and so on. So if you look at our latest product, the EX90, so we have 16 ultrasonic sensors, we have 8 cameras, we have 3 radar systems, and a LiDAR system. But we wanted to make sure that we could write the software stack that understood everything. And that's where we spent our time. So now I can write the software to the silicon layer and up to the application layer. Great for us because I can change that application layer. If a camera comes out cheaper, better, I own the API, I change that. I'm no longer strapped to, in the past it used to be a tier 1 supplier that you relied on. And let me just talk about the capability just on LiDAR for a second. It allowed us to take LiDAR capability, and LiDAR is a laser-sourced system that can see 320 meters in pitch blackness or blind in sunlight. And what that does is it allows the car to see far, far further than the human eye. The problem is less than 5% of journeys are done at nighttime, but more than 17% of really bad accidents happen at nighttime. Why? It's dark. The road's less busy, people drive faster, people are tired. Maybe people have 1 or 2 too many drinks. I'm not in judgment, it just is what it is. And so when you're in a crash at 120 kilometers an hour and you don't see it, and you can only see the distance of the night vision, which is your headlamps, that's 60 meters. 300 meters gives you another 8-9 seconds for the car to see that and tell you there's danger ahead. And that's our whole brand. But that's technology and the brand working so tightly together that it adds massive value to the customer.
Are we going to need the way the smartphone market's played out is there's two major operating systems that run. There's Android and there's iOS. Is a similar thing going to happen in the car, or does each car company need their own operating system?
Maybe I'll answer that first. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's see, the interesting thing is the car is a car. The car is not a phone. The car is not a PC. The car is a car. And there are things that you're going to do in the car. They're very unique to the capabilities of the car and the car companies. And I think what we're showing, this is not a situation that all of a sudden every car is going to be just a hardware, and you're going to turn it on and it's going to be CarPlay or Android Auto. Those things are going to be there, as interactive smartphone. But there's so many more functionality in the car, and I think that's what's exciting for a company like Qualcomm to partner with a car company that I had understand and invested in software. It's all of those different applications that is unique to that car and this is going to evolve completely independent. But I don't know, maybe Jim has a perspective.
No, I'm saying, the whole, we need to give customers the choice. Do I think, so I'm an engineer, but I'm also Scottish. So efficiency matters, right? And I can say that because I'm allowed to say that. It annoys me when I see engineering dollars frittered away on needless gimmicky stuff. Do I think that our customers want to come in and say, hey Volvo, rather than hey Siri or hey Google? I don't think they care. I just think they want the functionality, and that's why we have a big engagement with Google on Android Auto, because there's 7 billion smartphones, whatever there is in the world right now. You probably know, you're probably in every one of those, but they have already decided whether they're Android or whether they're Apple. We give them the option when they get into the vehicle to choose that, and it just makes their life so much easier. So I don't think that's the differentiator in terms of brand strength. I think it's a customer choice.
Let's talk about some other technology which is very hard to avoid, artificial intelligence. Cristiano, again, it's something you focus on at Qualcomm, on-device, edge AI. When it comes to sort of AI infused in the car, what does that look like from your perspective?
Look, this is one area that we're incredibly excited about this. And maybe what I'm going to do right now is just maybe give you a view of what is possible and what is possible to happen. I think there's a technology which is now going to become available to a lot of the car companies. So the interesting thing is we built in our platform the ability to run large language models at the car. And you wanted to have the reliability, the fast response, especially when you are behind the wheels, but also the ability to adapt to things that are unique to the car. And many different models, whether it's a model for voice communication, how you get, interact with voice, vision. And I'll give an example what that means. So actually at CES, we had our concept car, and we show like the art of possible when you have a number of different models running in the car. So one thing is, first of all, how you think about, and I go back to the comment I made about the platform, the car is different. Your car, you have different functionality than a phone or a PC. Like one is service. You can get the model trained on how the car operates and things about the car. So in that demonstration, if you can, both you want to ask the car how certain things work and how to operate things, but most important, if you have a problem, the car tells you this is exactly what the problem that you have. You're going to have to go to service, or you don't have to go to service right now. You can drive, or drive at this speed, or etc. Because the car understands. The model understands what's happening, interact with you, and that's just thinking about the car functionality and service. The other thing that we show, which is very unique, as Jim outlined, you're building all those sensors in the car. You have all those sensors, you have cameras, and you use those cameras, for example, for assisted driving. But the camera is also seeing the street or where you're driving. So think about the concept of a smart glass, but now you're behind the wheel. What you see, the car sees. So we show some examples. Like you can basically say, you're driving and say, this particular restaurant that is coming up in the corner, is that good or not? And the car will tell you, yes, it's a 5-star review restaurant. Or you can say, tell me something, the first time driving the city, tell me something interesting about the city. Is there any places to see? There's so many things. It's going to change navigation. It's going to change safety. So it's very exciting. And I think the ability is you run those models, whether you run them both in the car and the cloud. It's not about one or the other, but you have the reliability of having that, whether you have bandwidth or not, when you're connected or not, and work in a hybrid fashion, connecting with the cloud. So I think there's an incredible potential. And I'll finish by saying, Gen AI will make the car get better and better over time as you keep adding new functionality.
And Jim, there's Gen AI in the car, so I'd love your views on that. But also, how are you thinking about it across the business when thinking about design? And we'll get onto autonomous driving as well very soon. But how are you thinking it more broadly beyond just the car?
Yeah, so if you look at, let's pick an example. It's always easier on examples. So let's take insurance. Insurance is something which is kind of decided by actuaries. It's really where you live and how likely you're likely to have your car broken into at nighttime, or how you drive. And they kind of take it, when were you last in a crash, and what age are you, how much experience you got. Other than that, but if I look at a Formula One driver who's, maybe 19 or 20, the chances are they probably have sharper reactions than me, yet they'll pay more insurance premium. So because of their age, simple as that, and because they haven't got a history of no crash. So we're working on right now, we can use the technology within the car, and we can start to help young people drive much better because they're still learning. 44,000 people in the US alone die every year in car accidents. And of course, a lot of those people are young because they're still learning to drive. So you imagine you take the benefits of the car, even if you have your son or daughter coming up and say, hey, listen, Dad, I'd like to borrow the car. And you're like, okay, well, hey, it's only going to be you, son, right? And you're going to drive, I'm going back to my youth. But I can now take his phone, I can set it, and I can say, okay, it's only going to be you. I can deactivate the car if any other seat cushion is sat upon. I can set acceleration to moderate. I can set the top speed to 50. I can even set the radio to 3. I don't suggest you do that, and I would have hated that, of course, as a young man, but we can do this technology. But here's the most important thing, to Cristiano's point, the car sees everything. I can see if he's paying attention, if he's texting. We can see if he's driving too close to the car in front, if he's really stopping at the stop signs. And we can actually give you a driving score. So you're a 25% driver, you're an 85% driver, you pay more than you, because in our algorithm, you're a much safer driver. I don't care what age you are, how much experience you've got. And then we set a dynamic insurance premium based on facts, which is how good a driver you are and the likelihood of you crashing. And as your child or as you become a better driver and your score goes up, your premium goes down. That's just one example whereby the whole insurance industry is going to be massively disrupted because we're going to offer this and so are other people. And they're going to use AI and they're going to use algorithmic programming to make sure that it's as accurate as possible.
And of course, AI is going to underpin the path to autonomous driving as well, with everything that's involved in that. Jim, actually, I'll start with you. Elon Musk and Tesla talk about robo-taxis, full self-driving. They think that Tesla owners are going to, let their car go away and pick people up and all of that. And there are various views from car companies on autonomous driving. You're seeing sort of some of these semi-autonomous systems these ADAS systems being put in cars. What is your view on autonomous drivings? What is it going to solve? And what's the path there?
Yeah, so the way in which we're building our safety stack from ADAS, which is assisted driving, all the way up to full AD. Full AD will be capable, and it will come in certain designated highways, probably to start with, where it's easy and the rule-based architecture makes it simple to control the vehicle. When you're in downtown urban areas and there's roadworks and there's kids and there's bikes and skateboards and dogs and all that, that's going to be a lot more troublesome. And it will be regulated on a country-by-country, state-by-state, almost city-by-city basis. We're building the technology stack. But for me, and we keep hearing this, there's 5 levels of autonomy. I don't subscribe to that. There's either hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, or hands off the wheel, eyes on the screen. And when you start to confuse people, because people need to know if they're meant to be in control of the vehicle, even if the vehicle is helping them drive. And it can take the stress off and it can be much more fun and much easier, but they still got to be in control of the vehicle. And I was asked a question by an analyst, says, when will you be at level 3.5? I'm like, I don't even know what level 3.5 is. Who's defined that all of a sudden? So for us, we're going to keep building our ADAS, and what I mean by that is every single month, every quarter, you will see our safety stack, our algorithms, our programs change so that ADAS will become even more powerful. It will be able to take the curves at a faster speed. It will be able to go full autopilot, but still with the hands on the wheel. So that's how we think about it, but we're a safety brand, and that's why we care that the technology is absolutely 100% robust before we would suggest that people take their hands off the road. You get 2 kids in the back, 3 kids in the back of the car, you want to make sure this thing is like rock solid. So that's how we think about it.
And Cristiano, ADAS is part of your platform as well.
Yes.
So what are you bringing to the table here?
Look, we have two products, and I think we have a very flexible platform. We recently announced, this Snapdragon Ride Elite, which is basically, processing for this. We can work with any stack. We can work, any stack for autonomy, and we're also developing our own stack. We do that in conjunction with BMW. We're going to launch that in July, and that becomes available for every car company that wants to. And we have been really focused on ADAS, and I have the same opinion as Jim. At the end of the day, the way we think about assisted driving is, yes, there's an opportunity for you to go full autonomy, but there's an opportunity to actually make every single car safer. Every single car. And then you can bring ADAS even on entry-level cars. So one of the things we did in our offer, we create something very unique we call Flex, which means you have the ability to have on a premium car, you have all the computation for ADAS, but even on an entry-level model, on the same SoC, you can run the digital cockpit and ADAS. So we're really focused on propagating assisted driving, and that's what we're doing.
As I understand it, you don't yet have a partnership on driverless cars. Are we going to get one?
You're looking for an exclusive here at Davos, I'm afraid.
Always. Is that a no? So look, let's look to the future a bit. Jim, what next for Volvo? What should we be expecting over the next 12 months or so?
Well, you'll see us continue to invest in, the other thing which I think we should mention as well is that one of the biggest bridges to full, yes, what are the friction factors to full EV? And it's patchy, so West Coast of the USA really quickly, Northern Europe really quick, Southern Europe a bit slower and so on. I think a fantastic bridge technology is plug-in electric hybrids. And the great thing about plug-in electric hybrids is we can modernize them. We can use the technology from Qualcomm and others to really modernize that. What we find is in our data, with the plug-in electric hybrids that we have right now, 50% of every kilometre that's driven is driven electric. Even in a plug-in electric hybrid, people want to drive it, but they kind of want the backup plan just in case. And maybe they live in a district whereby they don't have access to that. So I think you're going to see, and the other thing about plug-in electric hybrids, you can take the investments in batteries, you bring that all the way back into EV. So it's not a wasted or a duplicate investment. So I think you're going to see, we've already signaled that we will do full EVs. We'll concentrate on our next tech stack, which is the SPA 3 platform, takes it to the brand new level. And also we can use some of that technology in plug-in electric hybrids.
Yeah, and for you, Cristiano, Qualcomm and autos. I have a second question for you, but Qualcomm and autos first. You mentioned sort of building the full stack with BMW. What are going to be the key priorities for the auto business in 2025?
Look, in the auto business, I think one of the things what we said is we want to commercialize the stack, and I think continue to drive, capabilities for the digital cockpit platform, and especially on that in 25 is the ability to bring Gen AI use cases. And one of the things I'm more excited about the future, and I wanted to give you that because not a lot of people are talking about this, but I'm going to make a connection. Phones are going to be changing. Phones because of AI. And one of the things that AI brings, besides the functionality, AI changes the human-computer interface, because now the human-computer interface is like we interact with other humans. The computer now, for the first time, you don't have to get trained to use an ASCII keyboard or a mouse. The computer can see what you see, hear what you hear, and understand what you're saying. And that's going to change, for example, applications in phones. They're going to have agents, and you're going to tell the agent what to do. That creates an incredible opportunity to bring functionality that's going to be available in phones right back to the car, because now that's what's going to be on the computer on the car. So the car may be, as applications change to this AI era, has as much functionality as you have in your pocket.
Amazing. And I have a second question, Cristiano. And every time we meet, I always have to throw you a cheeky question. And this is my
Thank
one
you very
cheeky
much.
question. Under your leadership, Qualcomm's become a company that isn't afraid to try new things. You've gone into the PC market, autos, invested heavily. One of the big markets right now is the server market, and I just want to get your views on it. It's a place where NVIDIA plays very strongly in that stack. Are you making a return to the server CPU market?
So here's what I can answer right now. We have assets that are very relevant to the data center, and I'll point out two assets. One asset is we have a very competitive CPU. I think we demonstrated now, we restored the performance leadership to Windows. We now restore the performance leadership to Android, the fastest CPU. And that CPU can be very disruptive on a data center, both on performance and power on the CPU side. We also have another asset. Our inference processor, not training, but inference. Think about it. The processor for autonomy in the car is a server class processor. The reason we're so successful in auto, because you cannot put a server in the trunk, it's going to consume too much power. We actually have that in a small form factor, and it's very power efficient. Those are relevant to data centers. So that creates optionality for the company. Having said that, we're really focused right now on executing on our plans, and industrial is going to be a big one for us as a new frontier for the company.
So we just have to wait and see on servers for now.
I'll keep you posted.
Thank you very much. That's a nice way to end. That's it for this episode. If you want to contact us, email us at beyondthevalley@cnbc.com. Please follow and subscribe to the show, and you can leave us a review. Thank you, Cristiano. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
We will be back next week for another episode of Beyond the Valley. Goodbye.
Beyond the Valley.